to realize that there is a space in a cynical world for heroes and for people who choose to do the right thing. And what an important time to tell stories about leaders who choose righteousness over self-interest. But it's not a given. And I think what makes it exciting on a simple level is that you don't know before until after, as my granny used to say. He doesn't know. He is not a good man. There's no such thing, I don't think. Goodness is as goodness does. We'll find out in each moment how we behave in the next.
When it feels like every story nowadays is a deconstruction of a hero or one of complete nihilism, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a great change in pace. Which the irony that such a great show about good-hearted people comes from the world of Game of Thrones is not lost on me. The character of Sir Duncan the Tall is the kind we're missing nowadays. A true hero with ironclad morality. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a story that asks the question, what does it mean to be a true knight? Before we get into the analysis, I'd first like to say I highly recommend this show. I personally have never read A Song of Ice and Fire, nor have I even watched the other two shows that take place in this world. My entire knowledge of the world of Westeros comes from what little secondhand information I've heard. And it wasn't until I watched this first season of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms that I actually decided to purchase the graphic novel for the Hedge Knight. Something that I find super impressive about the show is that there's never really a moment where it feels like you need that prior knowledge in order to actually enjoy it. From what I have heard from people who've actually read The Hedge Knight and the little bit that I've read, I can say this show is fully respectful to the source material and borderline page to screen at times. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a story about the small folk in Westeros. Set basically right in the middle of the other two shows, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. It comes from a time where the Targaryens, the royal family, have lost their dragons. And now the small folk of Westeros, as well as the other lords, are beginning to question their power and grip over the land. The story follows a lowly hedge knight, Dunk, who later takes on the name Sir Duncan the Tall, played by Peter Claffey. The way the episodes are formatted, it's a show that's absolutely incredible to watch binged. The shorter runtimes and super tight narratives kind of gives it the feel of a 3-hour movie. So if you haven't seen the show, I genuinely cannot stress enough that you should go watch it, because these are the kind of stories we need nowadays. Those of heroes, noble leaders, and ultimately the indomitable human spirit. The only thing that kind of sucks about this story is that it really should not be watched with kids, because at the end of the day, this is still in the world of Westeros. And even though the message is probably a great one you could show young kids, the content in it, probably best to go ahead and hold off on this one for now. The story of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms starts off super simple. The basic journey is a man, Sir Dunk, whose mentor, Sir Arland of Pennytree, has died. Dunk has never really spent much time alone, and Sir Arland was a hedge knight who taught Dunk that a hedge knight was the truest form of being a knight. After burying his mentor, Dunk decides to travel to the town of Ashford Meadows to participate in the tournament being hosted there. Dunk has to learn the true harshness of the world around him, but never once does he let that harshness corrupt his character. Dunk has a run-in with a young boy who later reveals his name to be Egg, played by Dexter Soul Ansel. Where Dunk is naive to harshness and the reality of the world around him, Egg is all too familiar with it. Upon arriving in Ashford, Dunk attempts to join the list of knights in the tournament. But he's got to find someone who remembers Sir Arland and essentially can vouch for him, as he had no witnesses to his knighting. A theme that gets played on a lot throughout this show. While Dunk travels around Ashford Meadow, he's consistently insulted by those around him.
Find a safer trade, lad. You'll be happier for it.
One whore to another.
Must you mock me? I was only asking for a bit of help.
But there is a common sentiment of pity being taken out on him. People see his good nature and want to help him because they know good-natured people don't make it far in this world. Despite his efforts, Dunk cannot find anyone who remembers Sir Arland, and he can't believe it. Dunk thinks of Sir Arland as a true knight of true nobility and can't believe nobody remembers him. Dunk fumbles his way through the town of Ashford, running into various lords such as Sir Lionel Baratheon, played by Daniel Ings. Lionel takes a fondness to Dunk, again noticing his lovable foolishness, and just the idea that he is willing to stand up to Lionel, a man who's used to having everyone suck up to him and give him everything he wants. The two engage in an incredibly choreographed dance that really highlights their characters. Lionel's very open and foolish, extremely confident and secure in his sense of self, whereas Dunk is far more reserved and coiled up. Lionel tells Dunk to stand tall and be confident in himself.
The seven above gave you tallness, so be tall.
As Dunk returns to his campsite, he sees Egg, who followed him to Ashford, and Dunk tells Egg he can be his squire for the tournament, as well as Egg giving Dunk the idea to change his name to go by Sir Duncan the Tall, because that sounds far more knightly. The next day, Dunk and Egg's brotherly-like relationship begins to grow, and the Targaryens ride into Ashford, the royal family. With them is the Hand of the King, and next in line to the Iron Throne, Baelor Targaryen, his younger brother Maekar, Baelar's son Valar, who is going to participate in the tournament, as well as Maekar's son Aryan, who just immediately gives off the vibe of someone who just needs a really good punch in the face. While Dunk is wandering around, he accidentally wanders into the castle, where he overhears that 2 of Maekar's sons had disappeared. He's then caught eavesdropping, and he foolishly decides to ask the Hand of the King if he remembers Sir Arland of Pennytree. Maekar is kind of offended that Dunk could ask such a foolish question to a man of such high honor, but Baelor does remember the lowly hedge knight. The 2 of them had an epic jousting battle where Sir Arland might have exaggerated a bit on how many lances he broke against Baelor. And now Dunk has his way into the tournament. But there's one small problem. Dunk is not from the blood of Sir Arland, and Baelor tells him he's going to need a new sigil. So Dunk decides to go to the puppet show, where Egg is, where they ask the main puppeteer Tansel Tootal to paint Dunk a new sigil. Dunk, however, has completely fallen in love with Tansel, and his brain just shuts off and stops working when he's trying to talk to her. And ultimately, he needs his main wingman, Egg, to bail him out of the awkward situation. Egg, however, doesn't want to just be embarrassed by Dunk because he really likes the puppet show and he wants to keep coming back, and here comes this big idiot knight who he's supposed to be squiring to, and he's about to completely airball on a shot where he's trying to pick up Tansel. Ultimately, she does agree to paint Dunk a new sigil, an idea mixed from both Egg and Dunk to create an awesome sigil of the shooting star they had seen the night before over a strong elm tree. The elm tree signifying who Dunk is. A strong-rooted tree that stands tall and alone in a field, with the luck of the shooting star going over it across the sunset. After that, Dunk heads off to the blacksmith, Steely Pate, to get a new set of armor. In order to pay for this set of armor, Dunk needs a lot of money, which he obviously does not have, and he has to sell his horse, Sweetfoot, in order to cover it, in a beautifully created and acted scene. Along with these journeys, we get another great scene with Lionel recruiting Dunk to play tug of war, which just shows Dunk and Egg again developing and growing and having some fun together, as well as giving you a little more insight into Lionel's character as he just walks away from the tug of war game to get a drink in the middle of it. The jousting begins that night with pure chaos, and a great scene where Dunk is terrified, realizing the peril he's going to be in. Dunk's entire life will be on the line. If he loses, the victor gets to keep his horse and arms, and he will not be able to afford the ransom to buy them back. The next day, Egg wakes up early to train Thunder for Dunk. He teaches Thunder to sprint for the joust, as well as pretending Dunk is in active combat for his training. He has a run-in with Sir Robin Riesling, one of the craziest knights of the Seven Kingdoms, before returning to camp to see Dunk, who has woken up. Dunk intends to enter the tournament today, but he lacks the high birth and renown needed to enter the tournament that early. Something that's pointed out to him by Egg, because Egg knows it, but Dunk really doesn't, and he's confused at why he's been throwing up all morning.
Also, the right of first challenge goes to knights of high birth and renown. Are you a knight of high birth and renown, sir?
Wait, so I cannot enter the list today?
Not today, sir, no. Only knights of high birth and renown.
Then why have I been vomiting all morning?
It's a mystery.
So instead, the relationship between Dunk and Egg will grow as the two explore Ashford together watching the joust. They are interrupted, however, when Dunk is given an offer by the steward of the games. His offer to Dunk is that he jousts Lord Ashford's son, and the young Sir Ashford will take a dive as a way to earn on the odds that will be stacked against Dunk, because the entire tournament is being put on for Lord Ashford's daughter and her birthday, but they have spent way too much money, and this will be a good way to get it back. Almost everyone in Westeros would take this bet, a chance to have a free win and gain the most with the least work, but not Dunk. He means to win on his merit and skill alone, and he's ultimately offended that the steward would offer him such a ridiculous quest. Dunk and Egg watch the joust for the day, where Aryan cheats and kills Sir Humphrey Harding's horse. The horse falls on Humphrey, breaking his leg, and Egg and Dunk are horrified as they watch the horse bleed out and suffer. A riot's caused amongst the people, showing the weakened state of Targaryen rule over Westeros since losing their dragons. Egg and Dunk continue to bond as Egg extremely overanalyzes a song about a girl named Alice who would shove her arm up man's asses.
Perhaps it is a story of honor.
Honor?
A misfortune girl making the best of her natural gifts.
Perhaps her name does not matter then. It's her story that abides.
Her name is Hope, sir. Belongs to all who invoke it.
A really funny scene that shows Dunk trying to pretend he's smart and Egg being too smart for his own good, as they just have a very awkward conversation, and Egg puts out the idea that this girl Alice actually represents Hope. Just kind of showing you some more of the character dynamics there. Egg goes to watch the puppet show, and Dunk talks with Raymond Fossaway, who reveals he's ultimately not that big a fan of the Targaryens.
The only honourable thing a Targaryen can do for this realm is finish on his wife's tits. So I think he meant to kill the fucking horse.
In the puppet show, Tansel tells a story of a knight who slayed a dragon. Aryan is there watching and takes offense to this because Aryan sees himself as a dragon. Egg rushes to get Dunk, who arrives at the tent just in time to see Aryan snap the finger of Tansel. Dunk breaks into a rage and beats the crap out of Aryan. Aryan means to have Dunk killed. He's gonna curb stomp him until all of his teeth knock out for his treason of attacking a prince of Westeros. And Aryan isn't even that mad at Dunk. He's honestly just more confused at why a man would throw his life away for such a ridiculous thing. And just as he's about to have Dunk's head smashed in, Egg demands they stop, revealing himself to be Aryan's brother and a prince of Westeros himself. Dunk is held in prison, and Egg, whose real name is Aegon, comes to visit him. The two have an argument because Dunk let this kid into his life, and he was lied to by him. This kid is really important, being the son of a prince of Westeros. He is himself in line to the throne, and he didn't tell that to Dunk, putting Dunk in a pretty bad situation. Dunk is then sent to see Baelor Targaryen. Baelor informs Dunk one of Maekar's other sons, Darren, told Maekar that Dunk kidnapped Egg and took him away because Dunk actually had a run-in with Darren early on in episode 1, but you don't know it's Darren at the time. Baelor tells Dunk his punishment is likely to be the loss of the limb he struck Aryan with, which Dunk both punched and kicked Aryan. Dunk questions why he'd be punished when all he did was protect the innocent, the vow all knights swear. He challenges Baelor, asking if it's not as he would have done or as any true knight would or should do. Baelor kind of hints at Dunk that he should request a trial by combat because he ultimately thinks Aryan's cowardice is not going to let him fight Dunk one-on-one, and he'll withdraw his accusation because Baelor agrees what Dunk did is right, but he wants to avoid as much of a drama as he can. Aryan, however, is more clever than that, requesting a trial by 7 instead.
What the fuck is a trial of 7?
A trial in which the accuser and the accused must recruit 6 other knights to fight alongside of them, believing the gods are more likely to ensure the right party is victorious. There's not been a trial of 7 for almost 100 years in Westeros, and the last one left 13 of 14 dead who were involved. Aryan is here in Ashford to make a statement and show the small folk that the Targaryens will rule by force when needed, whereas Baelor intended to do the opposite. Dunk is sent off to go find his 6 other fighters to fight with him, where he runs into Raymond Fossaway again. Raymond takes him to see his cousin, Sir Stephen Fossaway, who tells Dunk he'll fight alongside him, as well as recruit others to help, as a way to stand up to the Targaryens. Egg and Darren, Maekar's other 2 sons, go to visit Dunk. Darren is to fight alongside Aryan because Darren also has accused Dunk of committing a crime. Now, Dunk is furious at the sight of Darren, who lied about him, obviously, to which Darren tells Dunk he's going to go down without much of a fight. He just hit him once in the head, and he'll just lay in the dirt till the fight is over. Darren then tells Dunk Aryan thinks himself to be a dragon, as well as then slipping in a little insult to the Fossaways, whose house sigil is an apple.
A pity he wasn't born a Fossaway. Then he'd think himself an apple. We'd all be a deal safer.
Darren tells Dunk he had a dream of it. A dragon so large it could cover all of Ashford lays on the ground, surrounded by fire, dead. But climbing out from underneath is Sir Duncan the Tall. But Darren does not know whether or not Dunk killed it. Dunk goes to see Steely Pate to retrieve his new armor and shield, and makes his way to the field for his trial. There, Dunk sees the team he believes Stephen gathered for him. The Laughing Storm, Lionel Baratheon, Sir Humphrey Harding, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, and Sir Robin Risley. He thanks them for coming on the request of Sir Stephen, but Lionel says he has no idea who that is, mispronouncing his name, and that Egg is the one who gathered them. Dunk then speaks with Stefan, who says he needs to find 2 more because Stefan is taking his new badass armor over to fight alongside Aryan and the Accusers in exchange for a lordship. Heartbreaking. The worst person you know has that shit on. Raymond can't believe Stefan would sell his honor for lordship and request to be knighted. Dunk, however, hesitates strongly before Lionel comes up and tells Dunk that he will knight Raymond, as Dunk needs to find 1 more person to fight alongside them.
In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the Father, I charge you to be just. In the name of the Mother, I charge you to protect the young and innocent.
Dunk gives a very passionate speech because he's at his wit's end that nobody will stand up for what is morally right in the world. This came through with people not remembering Sir Arland, and now he fears that nobility has abandoned Westeros.
I know none of you remember Sir Arland of Pennytree, but I was his squire. We served many of you, ate at your tables, slept in your halls. He was a good man, and he taught me how to be a knight. Not just sword and lance, but honor. A knight defends the innocent. That's all I did. I was not Sir Arland's blood, but I have followed his example, as your sons will follow yours. Who will stand and fight with me? Has courage deserted the noble houses of Westeros? I will not believe it is so. And there no true knight among you.
In response to his speech, a knight rides onto the field. At first, it appears to be Valar, but he removes his helmet to reveal Baelor Targaryen himself, who will take Dunk's side.
I will take the Duncan side.
The second in line to the throne is willing to put his life on the line to defend the honor of a hedge knight, because Dunk is a true knight.
Man protected the innocent, as every true knight must have.
The battle begins, and Dunk is very quickly knocked off his horse and knocked to the ground. Dunk flashes back to his time as a child in Flea Bottom. Dunk and his friend Rafe loot the battlefields of the Blackfire Rebellion. Dunk attempts to mercy kill a knight who's still breathing on the battlefield, but he does it in a very brutal and rough way before Rafe tries to tell Dunk that they should keep him for ransom, and they don't even really have a good plan for this because Rafe isn't very intelligent but kind of thinks she has everything figured out, and this guy just suffers and dies in front of Dunk. Their goal is to essentially get enough supplies to sell to a blacksmith to make enough money to travel to the free lands. As opposed to Dunk, Rafe is very cynical about the world and ultimately makes some foolish decisions that lead to a gold cloak slitting her throat as she bleeds out in front of Dunk. The young Dunk is about to be killed when, in a drunken rage, Sir Arland comes out and saves his life. With nothing left for him, Dunk begins to follow Sir Arland until he ultimately passes out on the side of the road. Arland walks up to Dunk and tells him to
Get up.
Bringing us back to the present, Dunk stands up and begins his one-on-one fight with Aryan. A brutal display of combat. The choreography of it is so good that it feels completely natural. The ultimate sign of good choreography is it's so good it doesn't feel choreographed at all. This is a brutal, violent, nasty, muddy fight where Aryan and Dunk maul each other. Dunk has Aryan very hurt, but he ultimately falls to his injuries on the brink of death. He falls to the ground, and Egg pleads with Dunk to get up. And again, Dunk remembers Sir Arland as he begins to rise. The people of Ashford cheer for Dunk, and as it's said in the book, but left out of this show, they cheer for a knight who remembered his vows to stand up for the innocent and protect them. Dunk and Aryan fight one last time, and Dunk has the chance to kill him, but instead he drags Aryan to the front, and Aryan then yields, withdrawing his accusation. Dunk is very hurt, and he leans against the wall, when Baelor comes in and he's acting very loopy. Dunk learns both Humphrey Harding and Humphrey Beesbury died in the first charge, a very brutal first charge for his team, losing 2 of their 7 soldiers immediately. Dunk falls to his knee and pledges his allegiance to Baelor, who says he needs good men. Baelor requests help from Raymond and Steely Pate to remove his helmet because Maekar cussed it in with his mace, paying a compliment to his brother. Upon removing his helmet, it is shown that his skull is bashed in, and you can actually see part of the brain. It's quite disgusting. And Baelor falls forward, being caught by Dunk. This is arguably fulfilling Darren's dream of a great dragon laying dead on top of Dunk. The heir to the throne of Westeros dies defending the honor of a lowly hedge knight, because that's what a hero and true knight would do, changing the course of history in the land as it sits. Lionel has his maester tend to Dunk's wounds, who offers him a place at Storm's End, saying he'll love him like a brother. And when Dunk turns him down, Lionel says he'll then hate him like a brother. Lionel argues with Dunk that Baelor sacrificed nothing because all Baelor offered to do was fight against men sworn to protect him, whereas Beesbury and Harding, Raymond, and Lionel himself, were willing to fight knowing their death was likely. Same with Lionel and Raymond. He says the gods will not honor a fraud, to which Dunk replies, then why did they honor me? Very strongly hinting at the thing that has been, to this point, left kind of ambiguous of whether Dunk was ever truly knighted or not. Dunk attends Baelor's funeral, where he speaks with Prince Valar, who, if the logic of the book applies to the show, is now next in line to the Iron Throne. Valar cannot understand why his father would die for a hedge knight, and Dunk makes it clear he's dealing with the same kind of sense of survivor's guilt or even imposter syndrome. Dunk returns to the main town of Ashford, where he sees Raymond, who has taken a wife, because the poor fool doesn't know how pregnancy works and he's been tricked into believing he is the father of this woman's child. Raymond has been ditched by his cousin, and he has gone on to form the new Green Apple Fossways, because, as put by his consistent apple puns, it's better to be an unripe green apple than one that's rotten to the core. Dunk is requested to see Maekar, and upon arriving, Dunk and Maekar have a conversation. He tells Dunk he intends to send Aryan east because Maekar does at heart know Aryan is lost, and this is a way of trying to save him from himself. Maekar said he had no intention in killing his brother, and Dunk says to him, "You swung the mace, but it was for me who Baelor died." Again, you get this sense of survivor's guilt Dunk has, trying to understand how a great prince's life could be worth his life. Dunk mentions how if he had not fought, then he would have had to give up his hand and foot. Dunk says he asked if he could spare one, and perhaps one day his foot can be more valuable than the life of a prince. This, obviously, in my opinion, is setting up Dunk's true story, with the culmination of it involving Dunk using that big foot of his to do something great. Perhaps it's bashing down a door at Summerhall to save members of the royal family. Maekar tells Dunk Egg refuses to squire for any knight but Dunk. Maekar offers him a place in Summerhall to complete his training, and he even offers a compliment of sorts to Sir Arland. This offer is a dream for anyone in this world, and even Dunk himself told Egg maybe he could one day serve House Targaryen as a fever dream of sorts, which Egg promptly reminded him at the time was an insane dream.
Maybe some great house might take me into its service. Perhaps even House Targaryen.
You suppose the Dragon House employs many hedge knights, sir?
Dunk, however, turns Maekar down, wanting to avoid princes altogether, in a way echoing back to his earlier line to Egg before he even knew Egg's true identity when they first met.
Look, lad, I promise you, you're better off not squiring for the likes of me.
Dunk apologizes to Egg, who was eavesdropping on the whole conversation, saying he's sorry that he just can't go with Egg to Summerhall. Egg then tells Dunk that he's not the knight he thought he was. Again, this is just pulling at Dunk's survivor's guilt and imposter syndrome. Then we get a flashback to moments right before the start of the show and the field where Dunk buried Sir Arland, as we hear the storm brewing in the background. Arland is telling Dunk a story before Dunk asks him why he never knighted him, essentially removing all ambiguity from whether Dunk was truly knighted or not. But Arland appears to be dead. Peter Claffey gives some great emotional acting here before Sir Arland wakes back up and tells him a true knight always finishes his story. You hear that one, George? You get that? Always finishes his story. True knight always finishes his story. You get that one? While this line may feel like a meta joke about George R. R. Martin, this is really a line about Dunk. Dunk's story is to now make his life worth the life of a great man, described as the soul of chivalry. In order to be a true knight, he must finish that story. And ultimately, they cut away from the flashback before you truly see Sir Arland dying, leaving you just enough space that you can maybe reason that perhaps Arland did really knight Dunk. Dunk attends Humphrey Beesbury's funeral, where he sees Darren. Dunk is very angry with Darren because it's his lie that ultimately caused Beesbury's death. Aryan would not have been able to justify a trial of 7 if he didn't have his brother backing up his accusation against Dunk. Darren doesn't get mad, he just very quietly asks Dunk to take Egg as a squire. Darren knows that he himself is far from a good man and tells Dunk Aryan wasn't always evil, specifically telling him Aryan used to like to fish, a thing Egg told Dunk he likes to do. In his room, Egg sees his Targaryen hair is beginning to grow back and decides if he can't be traveling with Dunk, he'd rather live having committed the act of kinslaying, grabbing a knife and sneaking into Aryan's room to kill him. Just as he approaches Aryan's bed, Maekar stops him though, and Egg just can't do it. And just, wow. The acting from Dexter, this young kid here, is just incredible. Dunk meets with Maekar one last time and asks to take Egg as a squire, but he'll have to live as a hedge knight, sleeping where they can and living like peasants. Dunk boldly decides to insult Maekar's parenting abilities, which Maekar can't even really fault him for because he knows how his sons have all turned out, but he can't let Dunk take Egg, saying he is his last son. Dunk returns to his camp to pack his things when Sweetfoot comes running back to him. Raymond tells Dunk he purchased Sweetfoot back for him, but Dunk says it doesn't belong to him, instead giving him to Raymond. But also really meaning Sweetfoot is Arland's horse, so perhaps he can serve Raymond better on an orchard. Dunk says goodbye to Raymond and hammers a penny into a tree as a final homage to his late mentor, and just as he's about to leave, Egg comes around and tells Dunk his father commanded him to serve him. Dunk tries to act all tough and corrects Egg, but the two are both truly happy to see each other. They begin riding off from Ashford, and Dunk says they can go anywhere in the 7 kingdoms, to which Egg then corrects him, saying there is 9, and then proves himself right, blowing Dunk's mind, showing the audience both these characters still have a lot to learn from each other. The two ride off into the sunset, and we see Sir Arland riding alongside of them before veering off to the left, sending his surrogate son on his own journey as he rides off to the afterlife. A beautifully shot final sequence as the title card comes in, now saying, a Knight of the 9 Kingdoms. While in my own head, that's where the show truly ends, we do get one final scene of Maekar screaming for Egg because he's missing again, showing that Egg snuck off to be with Dunk. Is it a funny scene? Yes. Do I really like it that much? Not really, but we're going to talk about the characters, so I'll go into that a bit more when I get to Maekar. A large part of the success of this show comes from the main character, Sir Duncan the Tall, a man who is hopeful and good when the world around him is cynical and borderline evil. Dunk's story is a true example of a classic hero's journey. He's a character who begins a journey and emerges out the other side a changed man. Dunk has never spent much time alone. We know Dunk spent the early part of his childhood as an orphan, and his guiding light in life was his best friend, Rafe. Rafe is a very cynical person who goes about pissed off at the world. She feels hard done by it and thinks that she can take back some sense of self from it. During episode 5's flashback, we watch Rafe constantly make some pretty foolish decisions, stealing from the Gold Cloak twice, and because this show is grounded in the world it takes place in, she is punished for her decision. Rafe warns Dunk earlier that people don't forget or forgive, yet decides to steal from a guy who can easily find her and will obviously know she's the one who stole from him. The consequence of her action is that she is promptly and unceremoniously killed for it. Dunk has to watch her bleed out, and it shows him a path that he can end up on, and why the way Rafe goes about the world does not work. A life of cynicism leads to bleeding out in an alleyway. Dunk is then immediately provided with an alternate worldview when Sir Arland jumps out to save him. A man put himself in harm's way to save Dunk's life for no reason other than it's the right thing to do. While Arland is far from a perfect man, Dunk sees him as a true hero and the most noble of all knights. Arland is what shapes Dunk's worldview. Dunk is not a flawless, perfect man either, however. It is heavily implied throughout this season that Arland never actually knighted Dunk. Dunk's first big character moment is that his identity is based on a lie. Dunk is not an official knight, which creates the situational irony where perhaps the only true knight in Westeros is actually not a knight at all. Dunk is aware of his flaws and is insecure about them. He feels insecure when Egg is smarter than him, threatening to cloud him in the ear for talking back. Kind of like when you're arguing with your parents and you make a really good point, so they just kind of say you're back talking so that you have to shut up and you lose the argument now. Dunk has to learn to accept himself despite his shortcomings. Lionel tells him to be tall, or basically to open up, have self-confidence. This pays off when he's willing to tell Maekar that Egg's best chance is to be away from his family. The ultimate acceptance he has to find is that he is a true knight. He needs to make Baelor's sacrifice worth it. A true knight finishes his story, and that's what Dunk needs to do. Dunk's worldview never changes throughout the story, it only sharpens. His idea of protecting the innocent and caring for others is constantly spit back at him. Caring for Egg and protecting Tansel leads to him being accused by Darren and Aryan. Baelor himself pushes back on the idea that Dunk should have helped due to his and Aryan's status, and Dunk challenges that a true knight vows to protect the innocent, and that should apply regardless of status. It is a mindset no one else seems to have in this world, which is what makes his speech so angry and impassioned. It's a worldview so unique in Westeros, it can inspire others such as Baelor. The other big lesson of episode 5 is the idea that it's on you. The big meme of the season is also one of its most powerful messages. Dunk in Fleabottom watches the world kick his ass. His mom left him and he has all his money stolen, he's stabbed, and his best friend gets her throat slit. Dunk by all means can just quit and lay down and give up on life, but instead he decides to follow Sir Arland. When he is finally ready to quit, Arland comes up to him. He doesn't coddle Dunk, he doesn't tell him life is so unfair. No, he looks him in the eye and tells him, get up. Life sucks, you're gonna get stabbed by a lance and hit with a mace. People you care about will get hurt, people you know will die, but guess what? You have to put one foot in front of the other and get up. The indomitable human spirit captured in one moment, a very Rocky-esque character. Another thing that makes Dunk's character so strong is that his moral standpoint is tested and he still has to choose to be a hero. To compare, let's look at a different character that has similar values. In 2025 Superman, we're told Superman believes in being a good person, but in the film he never has to make a decision to stand up for his beliefs. There are two times Superman is supposed to be truly tested. The first is whether to live by his values he was raised on by his Earth parents to be a hero, or he can live by what his biological parents told him to do, which is rape people and become Space Hitler. This is not a true test or choice. Choosing to not become Space Hitler does nothing to strengthen Superman's beliefs. Obviously, he is going to choose to be a hero because that's what he believes, and you would have to be so cartoonishly evil to become super rapist. Later in the film, Lex Luthor activates a black hole that will destroy the Earth. Superman's required out of necessity to stop this. His motivation to stop the black hole has nothing to do with his beliefs in being good. If he chooses to do nothing, the Earth is destroyed, so obviously he stops the black hole. For Dunk, the decision to be good and stand up for his beliefs presents dire consequences. When Tansel is being attacked, if Dunk steps in, he will almost certainly be executed for attacking a prince. At the very least, he's going to lose the limb he struck him with. Dunk could easily run away or ignore the problem, but he believes in defending the innocent, so he steps in without hesitation, and his decision has dire consequences. 3 people die. But Dunk's character is strengthened because he chooses to stand by his beliefs regardless of the consequences. This moment is also great because it's kind of a twist on the classic character trope of the knight saving the damsel in distress from a dragon. It's the same thing, but instead of being an actual dragon, it's a man from the dragon house who sees himself as a dragon. The other main character in the show is just as important to the quality. Dexter Sol Ansel betrays Dunk's squire Egg. Egg is shown constantly to be very intelligent. Early on, when he's hiding his true identity from Dunk, he answers questions in a way that gives other characters enough context that they think they know what he's saying without ever explicitly saying it. The character is written to still have a childlike innocence that is super wholesome, such as the scene where Dunk catches him pretending to be a knight while on the horse. Egg's fascination with the technicality behind the puppet show and his training in the field where he's imagining how he'd help Dunk in big fights. Egg's determination to be a good squire is also great, waking up early to train Thunder, which ends up paying off in a big way when Dunk freezes during the Trial of 7. Seeing Egg in the wholesome setting with Dunk makes the moment where he almost sacrifices that childlike innocence to kill Aryan that much more brutal. Egg has a strong belief in Dunk. When Aryan attacks Tansel, Egg could go and get Baelor to stop it, or his father, but instead he chooses to go immediately to Dunk. One of Egg's big character flaws, though, is his naivety. Egg being raised as a prince and still being young leads to him putting others in bad decisions. When Egg gets Dunk to stop Aryan, he's essentially dooming Dunk to death. when he could have revealed his true identity and stopped it sooner. And his decision to go with Dunk, running away from home, or Darren in this case, does the same thing. Dunk gets accused of kidnapping for Egg's disappearance. Despite his flaws, though, Egg does truly care for Dunk, revealing himself to save Dunk's life, which very well could mean he has to go back to living with his evil brother, a difficult decision that he has to ultimately make. Honestly, the most impressive part of his character is that he comes off so likable. Snarky know-it-all kids are an easy setup for a miserably annoying character, but because they balance it with his wholesomeness and childlike wonder, and they give him flaws, you can't help but love the kid as a character. Baelor is described as the soul of chivalry, and would have perhaps been Westeros' greatest king. It's clear from the moment we first meet Baelor, he's different from the other Targaryens. He remembers the lowly hedge knight of Arland despite being the heir to the throne. While Baelor believes it's correct to protect the innocent, he doesn't really have anything to show it. It's not until Dunk challenges belief that he can show his true quality. When Dunk asks him if he would have made a different decision when stopping Aryan, Baelor has to think about what that means. He responds by telling Dunk it's different because he is the hand of the king, but Dunk asks him if there should be any difference between them considering all knights swear the same oath. Baelor can stand by his beliefs by siding with Duncan. Nothing positive can come out of his decision to side with Dunk ultimately. He's going against his brother and his two nephews, essentially calling them liars by defending the man they accuse. He's also weakening the Targaryen strength, showing a split house between them. This is also a massively important moment for Dunk because it reinforces the idea that you should do the right thing, because the second most powerful man in Westeros sides with him, and ultimately sacrifices his life for a lowly hedge knight. And perhaps his character is no better shown than the fact that his last words are a compliment to his brother. Aryan is a great main antagonist for the show. He immediately comes off as someone you want to punch in the face with how he talks and acts. The actor Finn Bennett can somehow eat a nut in the most asshole-ish way possible. The Targaryens are in this backwater town of Ashford to win the favor of people. Baelor intends to do this through his chivalry and their sportsmanship in the tournament, but Aryan believes he needs to do it through force. Aryan intends to make a big show and be seen doing it. He's embarrassed by the Targaryen name and wants to show everyone it still means something. In his first joust, he kills his opponent's horse. He sees himself to be a dragon, so when in the puppet show Tanzel kills a dragon, he sees it as a personal attack. When Dunk steps in, I love the way Aryan's portrayed. Dunk beats the crap out of him, but Aryan doesn't even look mad. Instead, he's just confused at why someone would stand up to him. Aryan requesting a trial by 7 is another way of making a big show. There hasn't been a trial of 7 in 100 years, and now he's going to be seen as the man who initiated one and was victorious. But his cockiness is quickly punished when Dunk kicks his ass. The look on his face for the disaster he caused. His uncle is killed and the Targaryens are embarrassed, and he realizes he can't just do what he wants. Maekar is also a very interesting character. Episode 6 does some awesome things with how his character is portrayed. He truly does love his kids, but he's just a bad parent. He doesn't want to admit it, but you can see the emotion in his face when Dunk essentially points out to him how he's failed as a father. I also love the change in his character after Baelor's death. In episode 2, when Dunk asks Baelor if he knows Sir Arland, Maekar tells Dunk to screw off, essentially. But again, in episode 6, he not only remembers his name, but basically pays Sir Arland a compliment. Now, some of my only criticisms for the show come from Maekar. I don't like the idea that he didn't tell Egg to go serve Dunk. The final scene showing us Egg ran away again. I far more like how his character would accept that the best way to save Egg from becoming like his other sons is to let him go and be raised by someone else. Instead, he didn't accept that and still believed he could raise Egg despite failing with his other 3 sons. Also, there is no way Maekar would not know what a trial of 7 is. Perhaps the silent MVP of the show is Raymond Fossaway. Raymond early on takes a liking to Dunk, offering him food and ale. Raymond's character is shown when he stands up to his cousin. Stefan selling Dunk out pisses Raymond off because he wants to do good, and Stefan is only interested in self-gain. Raymond knows he can't beat his cousin in hand-to-hand combat, but still chooses to fight anyway. He's punished for this choice. Stefan ditching him in Ashford and leaving him with nothing. Raymond choosing to buy Dunk back Sweetfoot is also a great show of character because horses are freaking expensive, and he did it to try to simply make his friend happy. But I mean, wow. What a first day as a knight. He's knighted by the freaking laughing storm Lionel Baratheon, participates in the first trial of 7 in over 100 years and wins, hitting a prince in the process, and then getting married, even if he's being lied to that he's going to raise someone else's baby. what a first day. Lionel is one of my favorite characters in the show. Now, that is because I'm a little partial to Daniel Ings, who plays him, because he's also great in The Gentleman, but he's just kind of awesome in the show still anyway. Lionel's ego and charm are on constant display throughout the show. When you first meet him, he's the life of the party and is being overly flamboyant. He takes a liking to Dunk because Dunk doesn't just suck up to him. The moment between him and Dunk dancing is great because his character can be seen in the dance. He's more open and exaggerative, whereas Dunk is closed off, and his ego comes out because he can't quite shake this big guy in the way he wants to, so he begins to try to stomp on his feet. Lionel chooses to stand up for Dunk, knowing he could easily die, yet does it anyway. The complexity he's provided with is great too, essentially calling Baelor a fraud, and you can see why. Lionel, Raymond, Hardings, and Beesbury risked everything against men who were determined to kill them, whereas Baelor was going up against people who were supposed to protect them. It's not a point of view I really agree with, but it's one you can see the merits behind. And also, what a cool nickname the Laughing Storm is, which comes from when he laughed in battle from the exhilaration of it all. Just a cool nickname. We meet Sir Arland through various flashbacks throughout the show, and oh my goodness, oh my gosh, it's so big. At first you get the impression Dunk has a far better opinion of him than the man he really was. Arland is not the most impressive of knights. Often he's a drunken mess, and he certainly fights like one. That being said, however, he is the most influential person on how Dunk develops his worldview. The moment in Flea Bottom when Arland saves Dunk's life is a masterpiece. Drunkenly stumbling out of the bar and failing to draw his sword before defeating the Gold Cloaks in a chaotic fight. He doesn't coddle Dunk because that's not how you teach someone to grow up in Westeros. Regardless of how great a knight Sir Arland was, Dunk sees him as one of the best knights ever, and people not remembering it drives him mad. Dunk's frustration with the higher up nobility of Westeros builds and builds until the culmination during episode 4, and all that stems from nobody remembering Arland. The relationship between Dunk and Egg is absolutely great. Dunk's lack of intelligence and Egg's overabundance of it, mixed with their respective sizes, almost makes it so they together create a full person. The chemistry between them is not one of a father-son, but instead an older and younger brother. Two of them constantly pick on each other and bicker in a brotherly manner. Their journeys are fascinatingly similar, but also complete polar opposites. Both of them grew up in King's Landing, but Dunk grew up in the slums of Flea Bottom, whereas Egg grew up in the castle. Both ran away from their homes to find a better life, but Dunk had no family and Egg was fleeing from his. Both of their first instincts upon finding a knight is to put on the armor and imagine themselves as a knight. They really care for each other, and you can tell that with how they interact in scenes. Dunk standing up for Egg when someone's insulting him, and Egg desperately trying to save Dunk. Had it not been for Egg going out and recruiting the other knights, Dunk would not have had 7 for his trial. Also, once the knights have gathered, you can kind of see Egg practicing with an axe just in case they need a 7th knight. Nailing the chemistry between Dunk and Egg was paramount to the show's success, considering they are adapting the adventures of Dunk and Egg, and I can't wait to see where their journey goes next. Storytelling aside, the technical success of this show is great. The camera work is excellent through many shots, such as when Dunk runs to the puppet tent to save Tanzel, Arland's drunken fight, or the knighting of Sir Raymond. The music is excellent in the show as well, often being more dialed back because the show is small scale, but when the big moment happens, they know when it's time to play epic music. The location of Ashford Meadows feels alive, and again, it's all really well done. I can sit here and talk for hours about how amazing all the props and all of that is, but it's better if you hear it from the crew themselves. So you can always go watch the free behind-the-scenes content for the show on HBO's YouTube channel. The last thing I'll praise this show is the casting. Nailing the casting of Dunk and Egg was crucial, and boy did they. Peter Claffey and Dexter Solancel are great together, and their interviews outside the show are awesome to watch. You truly get a sense that all the actors love the show they're working on and want their characters to be the best they can, which is super refreshing to see. My criticisms for the show are so few and far between that they're essentially just nitpicks. Unlike a lot of other things I've reviewed before, there is no moment that is so poorly written or massive enough plot hole that it breaks the whole narrative. The Makar criticisms are my main ones, and the other ones are so small that I'll just say them real quick right here, because ultimately no show is perfect, so let's just point out where some of the problems are. 1, I love Daniel Ings, but Lionel Baratheon should probably be a lot bigger, physically, I mean. That is a nitpick because I still love the character and honestly wouldn't want to see anyone else portray Lionel than Daniel Ings, but still, he probably, true to source, should be a little bit bigger. 2, Steely Pate has a line in the book when Dunk asks why the people cheer for him, and he asks Pate, "Who am I to them?" To which Steely Pate replies, "A knight who remembered his vows." It's a line that does a perfect job summarizing Dunk's character, and you kind of get this effect in the awesome moment where the crowd chants up but I do wish that line was in there. At the very least, Ira Parker admitted it was a mistake to not put it in, so that's good to see, but I do wish that line would have been in, and it won't shock me if we see it brought back in like season 2 or something. 3, there are a few strange music choices. In a fantasy world, I would kind of prefer if the music sounds like it applies to the world it's in. The show has such a great soundtrack, but there are 3 moments with weird music choices. The end of episode 3 is very like soap opera-y music. It's kind of weird, like the big drama reveal. It's a little strange. And then in episode 6, there's jazz right at the start, and the song 16 Tons plays over the credits. That's pretty much it for criticisms of the show. Very nitpicky, which that's signs of a great show if that's how much I have to reach to try to find something to criticize. And that finally brings us to the end of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Isn't it nice to have something good to watch? No one's sitting here arguing over political messaging or bad storytelling. Instead, we just got to sit down for 6 weeks and have something good and heartfelt to watch. The title card reveal of A Night of the Nine Kingdoms is such a feel-good moment, and the ride off into the sunset is a perfect, wholesome ending to a hero's journey. And while I look forward to future seasons, if the show ever goes to crap, which given the other 2 shows in the universe and the author's certain tendency to not like to finish books, wouldn't shock me. But at least I can always have that beautiful ending, and that can just be an open-ended ending in my own head. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is a story about heroism and masculinity, learning to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, and to keep going when life gets hard. It's a message that should inspire anyone and is the kind of story we need. The story of how to be a true knight, a true hero. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as me, and as always, thanks for watching.
Stop raping, sir.